Hello and welcome, Adam Thomas from Balancing Touch Reflexology. So good to see you and thanks for joining me today. If you're new here, welcome. We talk about lots of tips and tricks on reflexology related topics. If reflexology is something you're into, subscribe if you haven't already. And you can hit that little bell button. That will let you know when, I have new videos coming out. Because if you don't hit that bell button, then you don't get notified and you have to search and see if anything new came out. But if you hit that bell button, then you'll get notified when a new video comes out. Anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. We are here to talk about the spine. And I want to share with you an easy way that I think about and I share with my clients on how to talk about the arch of the foot, right? Which in reflexology is related to the spine. So I want to share that with you today. So I use this analogy because I think it's a really simple one and visual one for, to give to clients to tell them to talk about their spine. Because people are always interested in the arch of their foot. Oh, my arch is too high, I don't have an arch, or things like this. I hear this all the time. And so when I look at their feet, it gives me a lot of information of basically their spine and back health, right? Because in reflexology, the shape here, the arch of the foot, is related to the spine. So if you have a high arch, right, you get sort of a shape like this. This shape here is reflected in the spine, right? So you're going to see people that do have that, if they were to stand sideways, you would see that they have a bit more of a curve in their lower back, right? So they're sort of arched that way. Somebody who has a completely flat foot, when they turn sideways and you see their profile, they're going to have a very straight spine, right? And somebody who's, I'll say normal, sort of in the middle of those two extremes, their spine will follow that. And if you look at a proper spine, the way that it's supposed to be, there is, a curvature that happens, a natural curvature. But if it's too curved, then you have issues, and if it's too flat, then you have issues as well. One of the jobs of the foot is to absorb your body when you're walking, right? As it hits the ground, it flexes like this and then pushes off again. And so what's really helped me to think about this relationship is driving a car. So I like to think of this part as the shocks in your car. So is there good shocks in your car basically when you're walking? If your feet are too flat, for example, it's kind of like your car doesn't have shocks, so the shocks are all worn out. So you can imagine when you're driving along, you feel all the bumps and all the little pebbles as you're walking, because it becomes a rough ride. Kind of like if you're, back in the day when you're in the old wagon days, right? You didn't even have shocks on the wagon, but there was nothing to actually take the shock. Same thing, if you have very flat feet, there's nothing in your body that is taking the shock, except for that you're getting a lot of pressure and shock and sort of, a rough ride on your spine, right? So you can just think of it as when you're walking and there's not a lot of shock here, it basically translates into your spine not being able to, it's basically just a jarring trip when you're walking around, right? And so somebody with really, really flat feet feel a lot of pressure in their back, in their lower back. They're getting this jarring, and then over time, as life goes on and you're aging, and this constant jarring on your spine can create disc problems and that sort of thing, right? So it's a really good one to just kind of think about, like, if you're in a car, how is it that you're driving along? So again, another example here would be too high of an arch, right? So think of driving in a car that's almost too floaty, right? So you're getting a lot of weakness in your core basically, right? And that's creating, right? If you do this little model here, basically what's end up happening here is there's not a lot of flex. Also, when you have a high arch, you're basically going from your heel to the ball of the foot, right? You're kind of doing that sort of a walk with people that have too high of an arch. And so what ends up happening here is a lot of people will experience shoulder neck issues and very lower back, because it's basically the pressure is heel to ball of the foot, right? There's not a lot of flex happening, right? And another thing that you can think about too is if they have too high of an arch, sometimes there might be too much flexing in their core, right? So it's another way to think about it. And then somebody who's sort of, normal, right, in the middle of those two extremes are somewhat more of they have a comfortable ride, so they're not getting a lot of jarring in their spine. So this kind of analogy, just how is it that you're driving, how is it that your car is working, basically gives you a lot of information of the flexing of the foot, right? So if there is a bit of an arch there, then yeah, they probably have some good basically shock absorption, right? And again, if it's too flat, no shock absorption. If it's like this, maybe their shocks are, almost too much, or there's too much flexing going on, or the shocks are just too pumped up that they're not even working anymore, and so it's just heel to toe, to ball of the foot kind of an action, right? So this kind of thing, thinking about how it is that your car, basically your body, is driving through life, can give a lot of information on how it is that the shape of your spine, basically your spine health, right? How it is that you're driving through life, right? So I wanted to share this with you because it really has helped me when I'm explaining the arch of the foot and the spine relationship to clients. It's just really helped me because it's so easy, right? You think of shocks in the car and you can explain, if your shocks are working good or if they're not working good, it translates to the rest of the body, right? So I hope that helps you. If you have any ideas or concepts on the spine arch relationship, I'd love to hear them. Hope that helps. Until next time, Adam Thomas from Balancing Touch, and keep those feet happy. Bye-bye. Let me know what you thought of this video by leaving a comment below. Any type of feedback can be useful. If you like this video, you can give it a thumbs up. And if you found it useful, feel free to share it with anybody who might be interested. Make sure that you have subscribed to this channel if you haven't already. And make sure that you hit, or better yet, step on that bell icon so you know when the next video is coming out. And if you have some more time, why don't you check out some other videos. Until next time, this is Adam Thomas from balancingtouch.ca.